everyone, this is the Untitled.jpg podcast where we talk about art, movies, and anything that comes to mind. So for this episode, we actually have a really good artist called Sam Green. I ended up knowing more about him because we were in the same show at Gallery 1988, and his piece ended up being right next to mine. He did a great piece of the Reservoir Dogs, but I want him to talk more about that. So what's up, Sam? How are you?
Hi, man. Yeah, I'm good. Thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course.
Good. How are you doing anyway?
I'm doing great, man. How you been over there? I mean, you're in the UK, so it's like that crazy time difference and all. How's it been out there?
Yeah, it's good, man. It's good. I was just saying to you before, it's like a rare warm summer's night. You know, we're kind of famously not the warmest country in the world, but it's it's like after 10, but it's like still warm. It's weird. We're not built for it. We're not used to it over here.
Right. Yeah, and then funny enough, over here in New York, we're actually having like a whole hurricane, and like a hurricane just passed through last night. But it wasn't. Right. Yeah, we didn't get hit too bad aside from like the tropical storms. But working through it, it's not too bad. Today is a little bit cooler, so it feels good. All right, so I kind of want us to like get into like tell us who you are and like what you do, how you started out in art,
Sure. So I mean, I'm an illustrator here in the UK. I'm based in London. As far as starting out, I mean, drawing and art and stuff like that is kind of always, it's just something I've kind of always done, I guess. I didn't really kind of do it more seriously until a few years ago when I moved to London. I came up here. I can't remember what year now. I'm 27 now. I came here when I was 23.
Okay.
I got my first job, like a first design job, up here it was a clothing company that did like pop culture T-shirts, that kind of thing. And I guess from there, that's kind of when I started, taking it a bit more seriously. Nowadays, my focus is more on, kind of poster stuff, movie posters and things like that. But yeah, that's kind of where I guess I sort of started out. That's where I kind of started taking design a bit more seriously as a job,
Yeah, so then what kind of got you into then like movie poster art, because for me it was when I first discovered Poster Spy back in college, and then learning about like Drew Struzan. So like what kind of led you into that kind of niche?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've always been like a huge fan of, movies. I've always been a bit of a film nerd and things like that, and I guess I've kind of always, that's kind of just always been my thing. I always just have drawn what I love, my mum has like scrapbooks full of stuff that I did when I was like 3 or 4 years old, and it's just like Batman. Like I was just obsessed with the Batman movies. It was just much Batman stuff. But my first like actual like foray into posters was in 2019. I did a poster for Infinity War, the Avengers film. It was kind of, I didn't really know what I was doing. I kind of was like, I can't really remember how it came about. I've been drawing this stuff, and I was like, I'm going to make a poster. I just kind of winged it. I did, like, it was like a real masterclass in like how not to make a poster. It was like, I made it so difficult for myself. Like, I mean, I'm sure you've seen, the Marvel movies and stuff. But,
yeah.
There's a lot of characters. Like, I was like, first poster, I was like 20 characters. I'm going to do them all. And it was before my background's kind of in like traditional illustration, like pen and ink and that sort of thing. And so I just approached it like that, and I did, like full like pen and ink drawings, pencil rendering for like 20 characters. Dude. It was like, your typical collage style poster. But I just drew every character like in full, even though, you're only going to see like this much of them. So there's like, I've got like a deck of all of these drawings that were just like spent so long on, and then the whole thing ends up taking me like way longer than it should have. And it was just like by the end of it, I was like, oh my god, this was a slog. But I mean, it was such a learning experience, because it was like how not to do it. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody's ever gonna see it. It's pointless. So that was kind of the first real step into kind of poster art, I guess. And yeah, it was fun. I think it's
It's
not a terrible poster. There's a lot. There's a lot on it. I definitely do better now. I think a lot of change, but yeah.
Yeah, so you kind of started right into the thick of it with a really like ambitious poster with like 20 people. Like, I couldn't even imagine doing that. Like, I haven't even decided on doing like any of the Marvel movies, like Avengers or anything, because it's of all the amazing art out there. Like, it's super intimidating for me. So I was just like, you know what, let me not. But you went full on, man. That's great. I mean, if you're gonna start somewhere, I guess start there, and then work your way back.
Yeah. So
how long did that one take you? Do you even know?
I don't know. I mean, I was doing it so it was alongside while I was working at that job.
Okay, so yeah.
So it wasn't like full time around the clock, but it took like months.
I bet.
It took, well, so I did it. It was I finished it in like 2019, and I think Infinity War came out in 2018. So I guess that kind of shows, you know.
Yeah, that shows it.
I think when I finally released it, the trailers for Endgame were coming out, and I was like, I should have worked a bit quicker.
yeah, but you know, it works out. Artwork is always timeless, so that's always fine.
Yeah.
I saw that on Twitter. You posted a screenshot of like one of your Procreate files that you're already like 43 hours in. Like,
yeah,
dude, can you tell us which one of that it is? Like, what movie?
So it's supposed to be for the first Last of Us that I'm working on.
Oh, okay, nice.
So I did already like a piece for the second one.
The part 2, which was really good. I loved it, man.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I mean, it's gotta be one of my favorite games ever. I mean, both of them, just, you know, they're fantastic.
Yeah,
and I put a lot into that second one, and then I kind of was like, I'm gonna do it again. So I thought I'd do one for the first game and make it a bit of a companion piece. It's kind of evolved into its own thing now. But 45 hours so far of a lot of, like, you know, there's a lot of environments where it's kind of, you know, nature and urban areas.
Yeah.
So you've got really detailed urban areas, but then you've also got all of this like vegetation going through, and, you know, that's the sort of stuff that takes forever. You know, if you're painting in trees and grass and things like this on top of your characters and things like that. So I think maybe I've gone off the deep end on detail on this one, but hopefully it pays off. You know, hopefully it's the sort of thing with a magnifying glass.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've always liked the posters like that, where there's so much detail in it, because then you can explore everything around it.
Yeah,
like like a bunch of these artists that I follow do a lot of that. Like Alberto Reyes Franco's, like his piece with community and everything, like seeing all the little details and Easter eggs. Yeah, dude. So I love that kind of stuff. So I can't wait to see that.
Thanks.
I recently watched A Quiet Place Part 2, and it reminded me so much of Last of Us, and like the way the set was made and everything. Have you watched that yet?
I haven't seen the movies.
Oh, dude. That'll bring a lot of inspiration to you for that piece if you like manage to see it anytime soon.
Yeah, I think I missed the first one in the cinema, and I just heard so much about it being this kind of cinema experience. You know, everybody deathly quiet, and it's like, you know, the atmosphere of it. And I just thought, you know, I've kind of missed the prime way of viewing it, and I think it just kind of deterred me from catching up on it. And then because I hadn't seen the first one, by the time the second one came out, I was like, "Oh, this looks great," but I haven't seen the first one, and I just didn't catch up. So I just need to dedicate a couple of nights to getting onto them, but they look great. I mean,
dude, seriously, man, I'm telling you, it just reminded me of the game, and it was just like a great addition to it. And then, just like you said, the whole experience at like the movie theater and everything, with everybody super quiet while everything's going on, it's just super intense. But I wanted to then ask you, did you go to like college for art, or did you go for something else, or did you not go at all?
Yeah, so over here in the UK, we've got this thing that you can do called an art foundation, and it's essentially it's like a year that you do between school and university. So finished sixth form in school, and then did a year of art foundation in Cardiff, where I grew up, and then from there I went on to do 3 years at university. So yeah, I did do the kind of formal training route. Mixed results maybe, but yeah, I did do it. I went. So I think the year at Art Foundation, I think, was definitely maybe more sort of creatively nourishing, even though it was only a year. Whereas university, I don't feel like I got as much from it. I've always kind of been the sort of person to kind of teach myself. I think a lot of my kind of artistic background, outside of school, was very self-taught. I was always the kind of person to go off and like figure out how to do stuff and be like, that's how I'm going to do it. And and like I said, I've been drawing since I was really young.
Yeah.
I originally wanted to work in video games. Obviously, we've talked a bit about games already, but that was originally what I wanted to do. I wanted to do, the concept art for video games, design characters and things like that. So that's what I kind of had my head set on for university. And that's what I initially went to do. But before I did that, I did the year of Art Foundation, which is essentially you get a year to kind of do whatever, and then you have a big project at the end, and they encourage you to just like try all sorts of stuff out. So you have, a couple of months in different kind of fields. And my final project for that was I wrote and illustrated a graphic novel. It was this thick, like 64-page, like full color thing. Another one of those things where I just kind of went off the deep end on it. But it was cool, and they loved it. I got top marks for it. I got a distinction for it, and it was this this weird, like pulpy, like B-movie kind of martial arts movie inspired thing about this cowboy who ends up in Japan and trains. It was very cliche, intentionally very cliche. Cowboys, samurais, revenge plot. I think it was called like Revenge of the Gunfighter Samurai, I think is what it was called, and the cover was like really bloody, and it was like, I don't know if you've ever heard of like Lone Wolf and Cub or Shogun Assassin or any of that.
I think it's Shogun Assassin. Yeah, I've heard of that one. Yeah.
So Shogun Assassin's like the American recut of the first two. Okay. It's the first two films edited down with a cool like synth soundtrack, voiceover narration, and just cut all the plot bits out and just crammed all the action together, and it's just like fun. So it's very much like riffing on that, as well as the kind of Sergio Leone, like Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, exactly. I dig that, man. Do you have it? Do you have it anywhere that people could see it, or is it something that you like hide?
Yeah, it doesn't exist online anywhere. Maybe I should upload it.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Some of the artwork maybe hasn't aged so well. There was, I had deadlines to meet, so there was some concessions where, I did the whole. I said that I was riffing on, in the House of Blue Leaves fight scene where she plucks out the eye and it goes black and white, and then all the different fight scenes with different like primary colors. There's like sections of it where it's like, it's black and white as a reference to this, but it was like I didn't have time.
Just didn't have time to, yeah. Listen, man, we've all done that, especially in college. I mean, I did that for my children's book class because it was the same thing, just tight deadlines with a bunch of these illustrations that you just gotta. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that turned out okay, and then I went to university then to do game art, and I was there for a few weeks, and I just kind of realised it wasn't really working out for me. I think the kind of focus of it wasn't where my interests lay. I really came more from a illustration background. That's what I wanted to do. It was very like 3D heavy, and that's great, and it's a super useful tool. But it just wasn't, I think, where I was at then. I think you're like 18, 19 when you start university. So I was like, no, I know where I want to be, and I just didn't think it was right for me. And I do think it was the right call, but I ended up changing course in the end, even though I'll get to it. But even though I actually didn't really get on with the course that I changed to, I don't think a career in games would have been for me. I'm glad I didn't go down that route because, man, that's a tough industry. It's a real cut.
Especially now with everything coming out with like the whole thing with Blizzard and like just the culture with like game developers and all that, and it's just super high stress, dude. It's like even worse than I feel like than just being an illustrator,
Yeah, exactly. I know some people who are in the industry, and I kind of keep up with like the news of what's going on and things like that, and it's there's a lot of shit they need to work out at like a pretty systemic level, I think. It's such a new industry, really, so not to excuse anything, but like there's a lot that needs to be figured out, I think, there. But
a lot to learn on that end, and just on the way that they function, and just have like a whole solid team, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So so I ditched that pretty abruptly. I think I left halfway through a workshop class, and I was just sat there staring at a monitor rendering a Dalek, and I was like, this isn't for me.
Just not feeling it.
I just pretty much bailed there and then. I went and was like, can I, I said, do you have an illustration or graphic design course? And they didn't. So the next best thing that was the main fit within the university without me having to up sticks and go to a different one was fine art. So I thought, yeah, sure. And I'd spoken to the lecturers, and they were like, you can do whatever you want here. If you want to be an illustrator, be an illustrator. That's what we're about. It's fine art. You can do whatever. Turns out that wasn't entirely true. They were it's quite a sort of old school thought process behind things. They didn't love my work. I think, to put it kindly, that it didn't really vibe with them. They were very much,
they were trying to be. They were more interested in like oil paintings kind of stuff, like in that sense, like figure drawing, or.
It was not even that. It was just very. It was. I don't want to use the word pretentious, but they definitely were that kind of.
Okay, I get what you mean. Yeah, no, I get it.
Very, very modern. If you can explain it, I guess was a big thing. Then anything goes. But I think maybe a lot of my stuff was too literal. I liked people and figures and scenarios and scenes, and they didn't vibe with that. So I went through the gamut of things, just trying to appease the tutors, because it got to the point where I was putting stuff out and they just hated it every time. And they were like, it's a technical level that we can appreciate, but they just weren't happy with it from an artistic standpoint. So I guess the benefit of it was I got to try loads of things, because I was like, right, they don't like my illustration. I'm going to do screen printing. So I did loads of screen printing. They didn't really like that. So, I'll do an installation. Weren't big fans, So I just kind of did everything. In the end, my actual final degree show was photography, which is about as far as far away from the as you can get. So I kind of came out of it thinking like, that. How did I get here? Like, that's not where I intended. So I don't feel like I learned a huge amount there. Directly for what I set off to do. But I think, being surrounded by creatives and things like that, both there and at the Art Foundation, I think is really beneficial. I think it's, you're constantly in this kind of creative space, you're constantly discussing and bouncing ideas off of people. And, so it was good. Bit of a unexpected experience, but yeah. So
I get it. Like you said, you were put through the ringer, man. I mean, like I guess you're in the same boat as I am, where it's like it's good, but also it has its setbacks on some ends because there are those kind of professors and lecturers that just do not like the work you do. Like I've had those kind of professors as well, and you can't please everyone. Everybody has their certain taste, and it sucks when it's a professor because they're supposed to be the most open about everything, But listen, I mean, whatever happened there has led you to what you're doing now, which, in a sense, worked out,
Yeah, I think from like a personal life point of view, it was great. Like I wouldn't change it for anything. Like I made loads of like lifelong friends there.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't think it really added much from a educational point of view.
Yeah, especially
I try loads of stuff. I'm pretty handy with the camera now. Maybe things like that probably have influenced my work because you have to think about composition with things.
Exactly.
Like that. Yeah. So I mean, it's not all bad. I don't want to sound too salty, but
no. I mean, even with me, I do a bunch of street photography now, and that's the same thing. It's like it's something that I got into during college. I had a little bit of experience back in like high school, but it just flourished more as time went on. And like now, when I'm not doing artwork and like I have like no ideas on like what to do on paper, I'll just go outside and go to like New York City and just go out and shoot the street. It's great, man. Great. It's just another great like way to explore your creativity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right. So then after college, what was it like finding work?
Yeah. So, I mean, when I finished university, I moved back home for a short time. I had this job there that I was kind of working when I come back, between terms and things like that, when I come home for Christmas or different breaks and things like that. And it was this small kind of print shop in my hometown, and it was very much like basic sort of graphic design and things like that. We did a lot of printing for like architects. It was like big plan printing and large scale printing and things like that. So I did that for a little bit. But my girlfriend had a job in London at this time. She lived just outside of London. As a footwear designer for a fashion company, and she was commuting in, and it was like 2 hours each way, and she kind of wasn't loving it. So she very much convinced me to move to London. I kind of always had trepidations about it, and in the end I did it, and I was quite fortunate. I actually moved to London. I didn't have a job lined up or anything, and I don't know if you've ever been, but it's not a cheap city to live in. So
I was just gonna ask you that, like how still financial, like living in that.
I literally just finished uni, so I didn't have much cash, and I'd just been doing this part-time job, and I was like, fuck it, and went. But yeah, luckily, I think it was like 3 days, and I was in a job, which was that t-shirt design place that I mentioned.
Right.
Just kind of, got lucky. I just sent them my portfolio, and I didn't have any professional stuff up to this point because I'd been at uni, and I didn't really have much from uni that was in my portfolio. But I've always been drawing just my own stuff, the stuff that I enjoy. So there was loads of stuff that fit the bill, and they took me on, and it was good. So I was a bit nervous to make the move, for lots of reasons. And London's quite a daunting place.
Yeah.
I do think it was, it was the right thing to do. And I think as a creative, the cities tend to be where the work is. So you kind of, like you said you're in New York. You've got to go where the money is a little bit. I don't know how true that is now with COVID. I mean, that's changed the landscape of things
a little bit. Yeah.
Everybody's remote now. I mean, so yeah. But
I mean, like with my job now, like as a designer with them, I don't even have to be in the office. It's all at home, which is fantastic. I feel like I'm doing the freelance work and it's fun, compared to what my previous job where I had to be at the location and doing everything. So it was a great change of pace. And I feel like with COVID, it's changed like a lot of the perspective of the workplace that we don't need everybody in the office to be doing work. If anything, I think with my job, they were saying that people are more efficient now that they're working from home than if they were commuting into the office,
Yeah. I suppose that, I think, when you're working from home, it does have its drawbacks. I think, not being in a space with loads of other people can be difficult.
Yeah, like not socializing and being at home all by yourself for days on end can be a little daunting. That's something I'm getting used to now, but I have family over, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, well, I live with my girlfriend, and we've got a few housemates. We've got a house here in London, so it's not too bad. I get to see them, so that kind of helps fulfill that weird, I'm just in this room all day in my own house.
Yeah.
kind of. But yeah, I think the fact, having that kind of freedom of working from home, you realize how much of your life you kind of get back. I think even just not making the trip into the office every day, that little bit of time you make back. I think like you said, people feel more productive because you're getting more of your life back. It's
exactly, man.
Make
Yeah, it's just like you're no longer wasting 2 hours to commute in and out. Like those 2 hours can now be used for something else that you were missing out on.
I used to when I was commuting into the office. I'm also now like fully remote. When I was commuting, and I'd take the iPad in and I'd sit on the bus and just have headphones in and I'd just work on my freelance stuff just on the commute. Problem with that is, I don't know if you've ever been to London, or if you have ever taken a bus here, they're usually pretty busy, and the roads are pretty bumpy, so you're kind of drawing like...
Yeah, that's the same thing here. It's just like with the buses and the trains, like I would try and do stuff like that, but then like you're going for that one line and then you're jumping, It's rough, dude. And I can only imagine in London, because you guys... I'm not sure. I haven't been. Do you guys still have like the stone streets?
No.
Okay.
We got normal roads. I do. Think,
okay. So because we have some here still. Like there's certain areas in New York that we still have them. So
I mean
those are the worst.
You go to like some villages and things like that around England and stuff like that, but no, we've got normal roads. It's not like Singing in the Rain or
No, I knew it wasn't like that. I mean, I was just, I wanted to ask.
No horses and carriage, none of that. It's normal.
Good. Okay. Well, I mean, still with the bumpy roads of just the bus and transportations, it sucks. But so you're currently right now the head of design for like a book publisher. So can you tell us more about like what was that like? How you landed that from going from a t-shirt designer?
Yeah, it's kind of a strange one. Like I did this t-shirt place that I worked at. I was there as a contractor, so I was just there for a sort of limited period. I was there for I think it was 9 months, and then I wrapped up there, and then just sort of freelanced for a little bit to bridge the gap, and then found this place. And so basically what they do, they're a publisher that deals with like licensed properties. So we work with people like Lego, Nickelodeon is quite a big client. So we do some Paw Patrol stuff, Dora the Explorer and that kind of thing. Peppa Pig, lots of fun, lots of fun stuff. So yeah, so I got that, started as a designer there, and yeah, just over the years, just kind of worked up through it, and yeah, now I kind of lead the design team, and yeah, it's fun, it's good, it's yeah, it's cool being able to sort of work with these properties and things like that, and there is definitely a challenge to learning how to kind of adapt yourself to these art styles, because they've got these stringent approvals and things like that.
Yeah.
You have to you have to be able to imitate art styles. You need to be able to imitating the art style is one thing, but I think being able to actually imitate the way that it's been done is another, if that kind of makes sense. The actual the way that the lines are placed, the way that things are done, you can tell when it's not done right. So that's what I do now. But now that I oversee all of the design stuff, I actually do less design myself,
because you're like managing all the other guys, right?
Yeah, exactly. So there is a bit of that, but yeah, no, it's fun. It's good.
So, because this is something that I've gotten, like, I realized now that I have a creative job compared to my other job before this, where I was just kind of doing more office work, but still like more photography. But something that my girlfriend also told me was, because she's a print designer for a company and she's drawing all day. She's doing watercolors from like 9 to 6. And then I always wondered why she wasn't like creating after work and like creating for her own personal work. Because with my other job, I would be working during work hours on my own personal stuff. And even after work, I'll just keep creating other stuff that I was interested in. But now that I have this job, I feel like I get like fatigue, like creativity, fatigue. So it's like when I finished work, like right now, it's just like I don't want to do my own stuff because I've been creating all day. So is that something that you have experienced with a creative job that you have?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like when I was in the office more, it was a case of like I said, that commute breaks things up. So if I'm there from 9 till 5:30, and then I've been churning away at whatever it is that we're working on, being like, right, I'm going to go and sit on the bus for an hour, and then I'm going to set up again at home and start my work day. It's kind of daunting. So what I'd end up doing quite a lot was people would finish and they'd leave, and I'd just stay in the office and I'd just work right through, and I'd stay there till 9, 10, and then get the bus, and then get home and have like I'd live with my girlfriend, so it wasn't the greatest balance. Like I do that a couple of nights a week, but now that I work from home, that balance is definitely a lot better, because I don't have that sort of daunting commute side of things. I can kind of like we said earlier, have that kind of flexibility, to sort of work on both, and I'm around, which is a benefit. I'm not getting the bus home at middle of the night anymore, which is it's better.
Exactly.
But so I think definitely as a creative, when you're working more than one creative job, burnout is very much a real thing. I guess maybe now that I'm in a sort of more of a managerial role and I'm not doing as much grunt work in the day, I have once I've finished, I'm like, right, I'm ready to crack on with some art.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So maybe that has helped, but I mean, I definitely would rather be doing my freelance stuff full time.
But something got to pay the bills, right? So at least for now,
the end point. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So what kind of other jobs have you had because as an illustrator, I always wondered what kind of jobs we would hold while building our careers. And I mean, you said that you do the head of design. You're the head of design for the book publisher. So is the goal to be a full-time freelance illustrator, or are you still thinking of having the stability of a corporate kind of position?
Yeah, because I mean that is definitely a, you know, a draw, having that stability. And I know a lot of people, you know, particularly in like the poster scene, there's a lot of people who are still kind of, you know, working a day job, for lack of a better term. But yeah, I think that's kind of where I'd like to end up. I think, you know, even though I do have that balance now, having something where you can just commit 100% of your time to, you know, it's great. It's a great feeling when you have that kind of satisfaction at the end of a work day, and you've poured yourself into something, and you feel accomplished from it. So, and it's hard to do that when you've got two jobs. You know? Yeah. So, yeah, definitely, that's definitely the end goal. But yeah, you asked what other jobs have I had? Like, so many. Like, you know,
yeah.
Like, I'm sure you're the same. Like when you're working through school and things like that, you hold all kinds of
super odd jobs. Yeah, man. I've like done retail. I've done managerial roles at retail stores. I did my past job was editing photos for a wedding album company. It's just like whoever was taking me. But
yeah, exactly. I mean, trying to think like some of them that I had. Like when I was a teenager, I did things from like I worked in like a shoe shop, bunch of like retail things. I was a dishwasher in this like restaurant, and it was like this real fancy restaurant. It was like nice high end place, but like it's intense when you're there. Like I was like 14, like scrubbing plates, chefs like throwing hot plates into the sink, and yeah, pretty intense environment for a 14-year-old.
Exactly, man. Yeah.
I worked in probably my favorite job, maybe even still to this day, was I worked in a Blockbuster video. Rest in peace. You know, obviously before
we still got one. We still got one. It's here in the States. Yeah.
I'd like to. That'd be cool.
Yeah, everybody goes out for a trip out there. I forget which state it's in, but it's like the last standing one that they still. It's like owned by this one lady that keeps ordering.
I'm sure I saw something that they like run it as like an Airbnb now, and you can stay there for the night, and you have access to all the movies.
Oh, dude!
Genius.
Yeah.
You can have like a Blockbuster, you know, sleepover, which seems really cool to me. But
all the movie buffs, that's their thing.
Yeah, I worked there while I was doing my art foundation, while I was doing my year in art college, and it was great, man. It was so good. Like I'm sure you can imagine, you just got everything at your fingertips, from like the full spectrum of entertainment. You know, so it's any movie you can think of, any game you can think of, any TV show you can think of, and it was like I can't remember. I think we had like 30 free rentals a week or something. Just
dude,
just go home with like stacks of DVDs, and I think that's where I kind of really learned to love like a lot of international cinema, a lot of foreign films.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of why that's how like Quentin Tarantino got his whole like ideas from. It's just working from like a film store like you, and just watching all these random movies that he has like access to.
Yeah, it was great, and it's like you just kind of, I guess now you've got the internet and everything's kind of at your fingertips anyway. But there was something special about trawling through it. It's like a library, and find out about these films, and it's part of our job to recommend stuff to people. So when you get people coming in and asking about movies, and you're just chatting about movies, it was part of your job to know what you were on about. So. Loved that job. That was good. They closed down over here, at least, a couple of months after I left. So it was very much like the end. We kind of had like a thriving. The first half of it was kind of a thriving time, and then the death knell definitely rang out whilst I was there.
Especially
the atmosphere was weird.
With the streaming services and everything. Yeah, I mean.
We found out from the news that it was actually like official. Like we didn't know about it, and then we came in and people were like, "Oh, this is happening." And we were like, "What?" I mean,
that sucks. They didn't even like give you a heads up.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to uni, so not to sound like cold, but I didn't. you know, it didn't personally affect me, but people were like, yeah, losing their jobs and stuff. Like, it's not, you know, it wasn't great. Yeah.
It's rough. I don't think those kind of places would ever come back. Maybe as just like an antique kind of thing where like people just want to, like how record stores are still available now. Like maybe something like that.
I wonder if there will be like a kind of physical media renaissance of, you know, like you say, like records and vinyls. That's something that people are really into now. Like I get them too.
Dude, I bought a cassette recently. So it's just like I'm interested in that. Like I think it was I bought a Billie Eilish cassette because she was selling it. And I was just like, why not? Let's try it out. And it sounds great. It sounds fucking awesome.
There is something cool, I think, about, you know, tangible media. You know, I definitely, I still get, you know, Blu-rays and things like that. I don't buy every Blu-ray I see. You know, you get on the streamings now, but you know, if there's like a nice release of something, like, you know, like Criterion or something,
right,
like Arrow Video do loads of great stuff,
and like Best Buy with Best Buy is the one I usually go for, where it's like they have the designed steelbooks. Like even for people that we follow, that they do the steelbooks for Best Buy, they look awesome. Those are the ones that I'll go for.
Yeah. So same. Like things like Zavi over here do that kind of thing. So that's definitely I'm more inclined to buy stuff if it's like it feels like a bit more of a premium version of something. If it's like the best way of viewing, you know, that film. So, but yeah, there is definitely something nice about physical media still. I think I heard that like Warner Brothers were I don't know if this is right, that they were planning on like stopping production on Blu-rays, and made me kind of sad that that's part of their business model, is that, you know, they're winding that down. You know, is their focus now. Yeah,
that's the problem. Yeah, because I mean, even the movies that are out now, they're still just putting it on HBO Max, which is great for, I guess, us. But personally, I do enjoy watching a movie in the theaters. If it's something that I know that like I can miss in the theater, then I'll watch it on HBO Max. But like the big movies like Suicide Squad and all of that, like I would definitely prefer the theaters.
Yeah, I love going to the cinema as much as I can. I mean, now that they're back, now for the last couple of months, I've been at least once a week, I think.
That's awesome.
So, and I'm quite lucky here in London. There's lots of great cinemas around. So, you've kind of got a good selection at your fingertips. Like we've got there's a place called the BFI IMAX, which I think is the biggest screen in Europe, and it's just like, if you want like big immersive cinema, like you can't beat. Like I saw Infinity War and Endgame there.
Ooh, dude, that must have been an experience, man.
And, like, you know, when people talk about like our parents' generation, they talk about like Star Wars being this cultural movement and all of this, and you know, say what you will of the cinematic validity of the Marvel films. I know, you know, Martin Scorsese, you know, he's not a fan, but you know, everybody has their own taste. So I think there's a place for, it's like pop music, you know. Pop music is not all great. A lot of it's, you know, made on a factory line, but doesn't mean there's not valid art within that, you know. And a lot of super talented people work on these things. You know, they're a huge studio production, but you know, they're entertaining, and you know, that is one of the things you look for most of the time with a movie. But yeah, I went to see those there. Endgame in particular, it was the midnight release, but they did it as a double bill. So you watched Infinity War up to like 11:45, and then midnight you went straight through to Endgame. And it was, you know, it was the first time anybody was seeing it, so it was like, it was crazy. I mean, there was like 30 Spider-Men in the seats around me. Like there was people were dressed up, and I mean,
so what, you watched the double feature?
Yeah, man, it was so good. Roped my girlfriend into it. She was like, that's a big time commitment, but
it is.
It's worth it. So like, for the film, for anybody who hasn't seen it, but I mean, like when when Cap got the hammer, you know.
Oh yeah.
People went fucking nuts. Like it was.
Yeah.
Like it was. Yeah. So, but yeah. So that's a great cinema that I go to quite a lot. And there's there's loads. I mean, I saw Dunkirk there. 1917.
Another great one. Yeah, 1917. Yeah, that was an awesome one, man.
It's like anything that you want to see as big as possible and as loud as possible, you go there, you know?
Yeah, we have one here in Manhattan. It's in Union Square, which is same thing. It's just like a huge screen, and it's like RPX in a Regal Theater, and it's just like Dolby Atmos sound. It's just like booming and everything, and even with how loud it was, you could not hear that scene in Endgame because of everybody screaming. Like I had to rewatch it multiple times to actually hear what most of the dialogue was because of how excited people were. It was a great thing, man. Opening night for that was the best. It's like something I'll always remember.
Exactly. Yeah, it was I feel like it was a real sort of experience, like that, a shared experience, which I think is you know, don't come around often. So. But yeah, I mean, I'm not a very vocal cinema viewer. I'm not the sort of person who's like, you know, heckling and cheering through a movie.
But
I'd be lying if I didn't cheer. Didn't say I didn't cheer when Cap got that hammer. I was like, I wanted it to happen. It happened,
dude.
You know, it was great. It was
too good, man. It was too good. So let's get into then. Well, was there a time where you like realized you can make a career as an artist? Like, did you ever have that definitive moment?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like probably when I did my poster for Stranger Things, which was 2019 as well. I think it was in the summer. It wasn't long after I did that long drawn out Infinity poster that I mentioned earlier. So I did the Stranger Things one, and it was one of those ones where I kind of achieved what I set out to do, and it got a lot of recognition. I feel like it was one of my more successful in that regard, and I you know, that's where I got a bunch of people contacting me for work, and you know, even still now. I mean, I say even still now. It's only 2019. It's only a couple of years ago, but that's one of the posters that I think people reference the most when they say, "Oh, I've seen your work. I've seen this." You know. So I feel like that was the one where it really felt kind of viable, I guess, and that there was an audience for it because I'd always been, you know, a member of, you know, the audience for this sort of thing.
Yeah,
always been a fan of it, but I never really knew, you know, if how niche that is or if it does have this kind of widespread appeal, which I think more and more it really does now. So yeah, that was I think that was the one where it kind of cemented it for me. The Infinity War piece was kind of practice and figuring it out.
Yeah.
And then Stranger Things worked out a bit better. And that was my second poster. And it kind of went from there. And then I went on and did my poster for Joker, the Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah,
Joker.
that's the one where I started following you because that one was when I was seeing the artwork coming out for the Joker. That was the one that stood out a lot for me, and I was just like, dude, this is great. And then now with Reservoir Dogs is one of my newer favorite ones, and then your Last of Us piece is fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, so I guess it was kind of right around then, 2019, where I was like, this could work. This could be a thing. I'm gonna pursue this now. I'm gonna take this a little more seriously, I think. And that Stranger Things piece was the first piece of mine that has gone into print. I had it featured in a book.
Right.
In Spain, there was a Stranger Things book released in Spain, and they asked me to be part of it, and I was like, you know, cool. So that was the first time I appeared in print in any way, which was pretty cool. Got some copies from Spain, and it's just weird to think, you know, you're in a different country. There's a book on the shelves with your stuff in it, you know. So that was cool.
I mean, that's the same thing with me. My first book now was the Poster Spy book with that Joshua Hull did with the 50 movies that never got made, and I did the Old Boy piece. Yeah. So then same thing, like seeing that your drawing, your painting and poster is just like in print, you know, and like people are buying it, and you're among all these other greater artists. It's like it's a trip.
That's the thing, is seeing all these people you're up alongside. Like I was recently in Layered Butter, and they asked me to be in their Christopher Nolan issue, and I had a couple of pieces in that, and you know, I'm in there, and it's me, my picture of I had one of Heath Ledger's Joker, and then another piece of Christian Bale as Batman. And I'm there, and I'm like alongside like Rory Kurtz, and I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, dude.
Like, he's like one of the best of the best.
Dude, I went. Yeah, speaking of him, I saw him at Gab's. You know, I Am Gab's. Like he had
the show.
He had a show in Bottleneck Gallery, and Rory Kurtz was there, but I just could not. For the life of me, I couldn't go up to him and like say hi, because he was with Paul Shipper on top of that. Like they were just talking. I'm just like, these are like the two greatest poster guys right now, including Gabs. And I'm like,
yeah, they're like juggernauts.
Yeah, and like the best thing was, my definitive moment was doing the Full Metal Jacket poster, because Gabs was my mentor for that. I reached out because for our final year and like that final semester, we had to reach out to someone to mentor us for our last like senior thesis piece. And I just emailed Gabs thinking like, you know, he might not respond, but why not? And he did. Wow. And he's the one that, he's the one that helped me with that piece. And that's when I first met him at that Bottleneck Gallery for his show. And it was crazy, dude.
Yeah. I've spoken to him a few times, not to that kind of level, but yeah, he seems like a great guy.
He's amazing, dude. Super genuine and super nice.
Yeah, I got his Lord of the Rings print through.
I saw that, dude. Yeah, it's intense.
That was quite a process for Bottleneck. It's a huge print run. I can't remember then.
Yeah, and then it was like, how many colors is it? It was like a bunch of colors too.
I want to say it was 20, and then some of the editions had like inks. Then it was like and there was like thousands of them because it was a timed edition, and it was So I got that through the other day, and it was like nuts. And I know he did it all as in pencil, so it's like these select sections of traditional drawing, and then made into digital and did the whole separations process. And so I did actually message him the other day about that, and was like, quizzing him a little bit about his process, because I'd love to do something like that. Like I said, my first poster was in like 2019, so I do feel like I'm still kind of figuring a lot of it out, So people like that, it's great to be able to ask them questions, But yeah, Rory Kurtz, Gabs, Paul Shipper, like they're the big boys,
Yeah, man. And then like with Ruiz Burgos too, that's another big guy that I want on the podcast. I spoke with him, so hopefully I'll have him on soon. And it's
that'd be great.
Yeah, it's like these contemporary guys, because like it used to just be like people like Drew Struzan, and then like I think ever since the piece for Stranger Things that I'm losing his name.
The key art, I think it was. I want to say Kyle Lambert.
Kyle Lambert, yeah. Like I think ever since then it started booming even more on like that whole alternative movie scene, and ever since then,
I feel like he definitely, his stuff for Stranger Things is very much like a homage to people like Drew Struzan, and and Paul Shipper is very much part of that, like that kind of aesthetic, that kind of 80s kind of traditional, referencing kind of thing. And I feel like that's created a new kind of hunger for it a little bit. Not to say that kind of hasn't always been a thing for it.
No, but it's just like it's just been booming more now. Because I remember like back in college, it was just like it was a smaller community, and now I feel like there's a bunch of accounts, a bunch of galleries doing a lot of these things, and just like spreading.
It was definitely a lot more niche back then. I remember when I was in school, like my favourites were Ollie Moss,
Right. Yeah.
And Tyler Stout, you know, a lot of the kind of early Mondo guys, that was like, and I just never really understood like how that even is a thing. Like how does that happen? How do you make a job from that? And then like you say, now there's so many people, you know, trying their hand at it. So it's definitely a bigger community of people now, I think.
Yeah, and I feel like it's one of the few communities that are actually supportive with one another, and it's not. It's competitive, but in a sense, they're still helping each other, like bringing each other up. Like people like Eileen, she's like making this whole like spreadsheet with like people trying to break into the industry and get more work, and it's just like that's amazing, dude. And it's like I've never really like been in a part of a community like that where now it's like everybody's coming up together, you know?
Yeah, it's cool. I've definitely that, you know, that is definitely something I've really recognized on it. Like, you know, especially on places like Twitter where it's very just instant. You see how much dialogue there is within this kind of little community, and it's like, yeah, everybody hypes each other up. It's great. Like, you know, like you said, there is a competitive side to things. Like, there's only so many of these kinds of jobs out there that people want to get. You know, these gigs. But you know, when people are making cool stuff, people are psyched about it. Like, that's, you know, it's not like a bitter scene. There's not too many people trying to shit on other people, which is great. Nah. Like, everybody just wants to see cool stuff, and everybody wants to see everybody do the best they can. So it's very supportive, you know, even like I said, like even with these big guys like Gabs, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
People like that, and there's no real like toxicity in this sort of community, I guess.
Yeah, like there's nobody too. It's like they're not too far to reach. So like you could like you said, you DM Gabs and he was there to help you out and like tell you about everything. Like they're not just gonna be secretive about their process. Like everybody I've talked to has been very open about it, and it's great, man. It's a great learning experience.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's definitely been one of the more sort of surprising things, I think, that I've realized when sort of getting into this area.
Yeah. Yeah. So now, how did you start getting connections with like the different galleries that you've been a part of? And like, I know when I started, I had no idea where to start. Like, well, out of college, I was just like, where do I even begin? You know?
Yeah. I mean, I think part of it was, you know, you're a fan of all of these things, right? So you're seeing all of these companies, you know, that kind of gives you a gist of who you want to work with and things like that. And it's just about shooting your shot, really. I mean, in the case of Gallery 1988, like you mentioned earlier, we've both got some work with them at the moment. I think they put out an open call for artists. I can't remember when it was now.
It was like a couple months ago, yeah, because that's the same one I saw, and I was just like, oh, let's get in there. And I want to say it was like last year in the fall.
Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah, I remember it was sometime sort of during the kind of earlier stages of this whole kind of fucked up pandemic thing. And they put a thing out, and I sent some work over, and they liked it, and they got in touch, and just kind of went from there. That's kind of what, like with them at least, that's where I started. I think it is a lot of that. It's a lot of being aware of what's around you, being aware of who it is that you want to work with, what galleries do the sort of thing that you're into, you know, and making sure that you're present and visible, and you've got stuff that is, you know, relevant to them.
Right.
There's definitely more that I want to work with. It's just, I think part of it is sort of finding the right time to do them. Like, you definitely want to know that if you're kind of, you know, shooting that shot, you want to be in the best position to do it. You need to know you're ready for it. And whether that's, you know, that's not necessarily like in your ability. It's just, you know, making sure that it's the right time, you know, to do that. So yeah, there's a couple that I would still like to approach, I think, but that's kind of how a lot of it happens. I think a lot of it's, you know, it's all online now, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I got a question for you then. What's like your dream project to work on?
Dream. I mean, they're kind of an institution now, really, aren't they? But like Mondo. I think that's everybody in the poster game. That's the
for sure.
That's
and
the one
like getting into Bottleneck Gallery is one of my dreams too. It's like that's like one of the goals.
Yeah, Bottleneck would be great. Mondo would be great. Like I was saying earlier about like the kind of Blu-rays and stuff like that. I'd love to do something for like Criterion. You know, they're really kind of respected and sort of revered, and they commission a lot of great stuff for their releases. So yeah, I mean they're like the big shots, but yeah, Mondo, Criterion, one day they'd be great. That'd be
for sure.
I mean, like I said, I grew up drawing like Batman, so maybe it's a little left field, but I'd love to do like a cover for a Batman book one day.
Okay,
you know,
like a comic book cover, or more of just
like a variant cover for a Batman story would be great. I love Batman, so yeah, stuff like that. That's those would be, I think, the real dream projects.
Dude, yeah, man, it's just like the thought, like that's kind of what the driving force in a sense for people, you know, like what they want to accomplish as a dream. And it's like those kind of jobs, especially in this kind of community. But when do you feel the most creative when you're doing your work?
I mean, at night, I'm definitely like I'm definitely a night owl. I think. I sometimes have the problem where I kind of something's not sticking. I'm not coming up with an idea all day, and then it'll be late at night, and suddenly I'm like, yes, this is it. And then I'll just go, and then I'm like, oh shit, like it's whatever o'clock in the morning. And it's like, that's Inside Out. I should be like that during the day,
Yeah.
I definitely prefer working at night. I think maybe the quietness of it is part of it. But like after watching like a real good movie, like I get really like just buzzing when I've seen something that really like resonates, when you see something that when you go into a movie and you come out and you're like, that was just fucking great, and I think it's the same with like video games and music. When you're just consuming, a creative product and it nourishes you on a creative level, and you're like, I want to do that, I might be listening, a new album might come out, and it might be, incredible, and it really incites some creativity. And, I'm not making music, but
but it still brings, it brings a creative sense to you, like with just the words and then just the beats and everything. It brings a visual element into your creative process.
Yeah, so I think consuming creative things and just being around creativity, and that. Yeah, it just spurs you on to be creative. You're like, I guess for me, I'm like, that was amazing. I want to feel that level of creative satisfaction, or, or even when it comes to movies, if maybe I've had that feeling for a specific movie and I'm doing a poster of it, there is an element of wanting to kind of channel that feeling into, a still image, which not easy, but there's very much, I think sometimes there's like an element of wanting to kind of live vicariously through that image. You want to extend that experience, that 2.5 hours you spent in the cinema, you want to continue that in pouring that creativity out into that thing, and then having that as a testament to that. Creativity inspires creativity, I think.
Exactly, yeah. And then that's another thing too with like going to the theater. It's so much better because I feel like when you're home and watching a movie, you tend to like go roam and do something else, kind of like look at your phone or something.
Easy crap, yeah.
Exactly.
I try and put my phone away when I watch a movie, put it in a drawer or something like that. That's what we've kind of started to do lately, just so you don't get that distraction, because it's very easy to just sort of trail off. Even if the film's great, something will, distract you.
Yeah, man, that phone. You're
like, oh shit.
Yeah. So that's why, theaters are so important, because they force you, even if you have it right there on your pocket, it just forces you to keep watch. And I'm the same in that sense. I'm also the same way that I get a lot of my ideas like late at night. I'll be up at like 1 a.m. in bed, and I'll think of something, and then I'll be like, I'll remember in the morning, and then I forget it. So recently I've just been, if I like have a thought while I'm about to sleep, I'll just put in the notes app on my phone and then get to it in the morning. But yeah,
I do the same. I've got a section on my notes which has just got ideas, and I'll just try and describe it. Or if that's too difficult, I'll just quickly like whip the iPad out and just scribble it.
Yeah, exactly. Thumbnailing is so important, man.
It's sometimes a bit irritating for my girlfriend. She's asleep and it's like 2:00 in the morning, and I'm like, "Here's an idea." And bright light fills the room. She's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I'm like on the iPad, like, "I've just got an idea. Just wait." It's not the best time to get.
Dude, it's just, I don't know what it is. It's our brains just firing up late at night, but they don't want to do anything during the day. I don't know what it is. So I was actually curious then. So what's your workflow like when you're creating a poster?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, that's still kind of something I guess I'm figuring out. I think, but I mean, I don't know about you, but I feel like a lot of people feel that way. Every piece is you kind of, I don't want to say figuring it out, but you're exploring. There is like,
it's like a different approach kind of every time.
Yeah, and I guess there is an element of wanting to hone a specific method or workflow, but at the same time, I don't want to ever feel like I'm doing the same thing twice. So that's why. For like my Reservoir Dogs poster, I really wanted to avoid like the collage style poster. Like I love those kinds of posters. I've got more that I'm doing that are like that, and people like Drew Struzan, who is like the pioneer of the floating heads and things like that. I love that sort of thing, but I felt like I had done it, and I was like, I want to try something else, which is why so I did something a bit different for that. So there's definitely that element at the start of every project of like, what am I bringing new to this? What am I doing that I haven't done before? So I think that's kind of a mindset that you go into. But in terms of the actual process, I think whatever it is I'm making art of, the most important thing is I'm kind of trying to distill something into that. So to be very sort of practical about it, you'd watch the movie again, you'd you'd jot down your ideas, thumbnails. That's the first kind of stage. Then is shapes and thumbnails, and just sort of the very sort of broad strokes of your idea, and then you go off and you gather your reference and you kind of sketch it out and put it together, and then finalize it. And it's very step-by-step kind of process. But I mean, having a day job definitely does kind of mean that you do break that flow up a little bit.
The process takes a little bit longer because we're only like spending 2 or 3 hours a day now instead of like an 8-hour kind of thing.
Yeah, so there is an element of that. Like I do think, like I don't know if you've ever seen, I don't know if you saw the movie Soul, the Pixar one.
Oh, dude, I love that movie, man.
Great movie, so good. And and he's talking about when you go into the flow state, and it's like this complete Zen space where you're just in tune with what you're putting out. I do feel like that's a real place, that's a real feeling. So it is difficult to do that in more bite-sized chunks. But that's the kind of gist, I think, of the process. You just kind of you're trying to encapsulate something, so you watch the movie, you make
notes. That's kind of similar to how I would do it, right? It's my process would be then it's just like watching the movie the first time around without doing anything, just kind of getting the whole story and then actually enjoying it. And then the second time around, that's when I get the sketchbook out and I start doing the thumbnailing and everything, like finding out what scene hit me the most. I think the first time around, I'll like do a mental note of like, oh, I like this scene for like when I go on the second viewing.
Yeah, and then on that second viewing, sometimes I will like jot down the timestamp of like each scene or key bit of imagery or I've got a piece for Printed in Blood doing a book for the anniversary of Aliens that comes out later this year, and I did a piece for that. And Aliens is like a great movie, you know. I've seen it a bunch of times, but I was very much kind of going through and trying to, you know, everybody knows Aliens, everybody knows the plot of Aliens, everybody knows what it's about, but I was going through and trying to really pick out just imagery that stood out to me and beats that kind of resonated, and just make a note of it. And then you've kind of got all these pieces, and it's like, how do I make a through line through all of this now? How do I make it greater than the sum of its parts, you know? So yeah, but it does definitely vary. Project.
That Alien one was, I almost got into that, but then that deadline was too short. It was like, that was biting a bullet there. I was just like, I don't know if I could commit to it, but I got into the Halloween one, which is in of it itself. It was just like hard enough already because so many posters have been out for it. It was incredibly hard to find a concept for it that wasn't already made for it. Yeah,
definitely. Like I felt the same. Like I literally did those posters like back to back as almost as like as one project.
I was like coming out of that Halloween poster, and I was like, I can't go into Aliens right now. I used all my brain power on that Halloween trying to find a different kind of concept for it.
I think I finished the Aliens one. I might be wrong. I think I finished it on like, it was either New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve. It was one of those, and I was like, I need to get this. I think it was Christmas Eve, and I was like, I need to get this just done, put to bed, and then I can just finish the year. Thankfully, I did. Fortunately, they were both accepted.
That's awesome.
So, so it's quite exciting. But they were quite daunting because, I mean, obviously they're both licensed, so they've got their own kind of approvals processes. But I remember with the Aliens one, Sigourney Weaver had to sign off specifically on her license, so I was like really just agonizing over that and making sure I nailed that, you know. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. But like we said, like your work process does change from project to project, and even though that was Christmas, it's not out yet, nobody's seen it yet, but I look at it and I'm like, I would definitely do that differently now. I definitely approach that differently now. I think there is always that kind of evolution. Every project,
that was
the next. I think
that was the same way with the first book I got published in with the Poster Spy book, because it was delayed because of COVID. It was going to release in 2020.
I remember that was. I remember seeing about that and like seeing snippets of people's work and stuff, and I remember just thinking like, I feel like this has been coming soon, like forever.
Yeah, dude, it was a rough process, but it finally came out this year. But it's just a representation of all of our work from like 2 years ago. It's like we've grown so much from it that it coming out now, we're just like, okay, I mean, this is us, but not us technically, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it is a weird thing like that. I feel like that's, you know, quite common in this industry, isn't it? Like with approvals and all sorts of things holds stuff up. But I mean, by the time this Halloween one comes out, that's like later this year. It's going to be like a solid year. It's
going to be a full year since we created for it. You're right.
Yeah, it's going to be weird to see it, but excited for it. So,
dude, so excited, man. That's Printed in Blood is another company that just does it great and super supportive with everybody. Yeah,
they're really good. I really wanted to do something for the Hannibal book,
right?
But I hadn't seen the show. I'd always been sort of aware of the show, and I love Mads Mikkelsen, and you know, I like the Hannibal Lecter character. Like Silence of the Lambs is an incredible movie, but I kind of like sat down and was like, right, I need to commit to watching at least enough of this show for it. You know, I never want to phone in a piece. I never want to be like, it's something that I want to be a part of for the sake of it. and just be like, I'm just gonna fucking Google image search shit and like put something together. I never want to do that.
Because then you don't know the context of whatever you're drawing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, I want it to be genuine. So yeah, it just got to the point where I was like, I've got too much going on. I can't commit to like binge watching a show as research. I watched the first couple of episodes and I really liked it. And it's one of those things where when I've got some time, maybe I'll go back to. But it's like the backlog is ever growing. So
that's the thing, man. With everything coming out within weeks of each other, it's just like it's too many shows, dude. Too many good ones, man.
Yeah.
So then, what's something that surprised you about becoming an illustrator?
Yeah, I guess like what we were saying earlier about like that community aspect. I think I wasn't expecting that so much. I mean, I don't think I really came into this line of work with many expectations, because I kind of was always like, I want to do something creative. I've always drawn. I've always been an illustrator. Well, not always been an illustrator, but I've always, been into drawing and painting, and I kind of found this line of work kind of organically, I guess. So I guess I didn't come into it with too many expectations, but I was definitely surprised at how supportive everybody is. Like, you'd think something like this is really competitive, and like you said, there is definitely that sort of healthy competitive edge. Maybe competitive isn't the right word for it, but there is definitely that thing of everybody doing well makes you be like, I want to do that well. I want to reach that level. When somebody puts out a piece and it's, just the execution of it is great, or just the idea behind it is great, and you're like, right, that pushes you to do more. So there is that. But yeah, I think the whole kind of very supportive community nature of it all has been really surprising, especially I think over the last year or so, with COVID and stuff like that. People are really helping each other get out there and support each other and stuff, which I think is really, really nice. And yeah, like I said, I'm fairly new to Twitter through my artwork, and getting on there and sharing my stuff. Like it's like a great kind of pool of like-minded people, and I think that's really nice.
It's gotten a lot better. I feel like it's gotten better than Instagram at this point, with like the way the algorithm works and just like how you're able to connect better with people.
Instagram is like a means to an end a little bit now.
Yeah, it's just a way to dump your work in there and then just leave it.
I considered for a little while just like nuking my page, like archiving it all, and then just deleting
right,
and then just having it as like almost like a portfolio, just like piece,
yeah,
none of the in between, and just having it as like a professional, like sort of
the way I have the Behance like that. That's where I put just finished work up there. I don't do any of like the work in progresses.
Yeah.
And then Instagram is like, I mean, I'm treating it also like a portfolio like you, but I do other kind of work too that I wouldn't post on Behance.
Yeah. So I guess I didn't go down that route in the end. I just kind of keep it ticking over as it is, but I definitely don't stress over it as much as I used to, and I don't think it's not the place anymore for that. I think it's so saturated. It's so algorithm focused. It does feel kind of cold now, which is kind of at odds with the kind of nature of all of this stuff. Like you can be super passionate about this stuff, and you can follow people who are super passionate, and you're just never going to see their shit because Instagram doesn't want you to see it. They want you to see what they want you to see.
Yeah,
I think that sucks. Like, it's hard for creatives on there now.
Yeah, they're like really pushing the whole video aspect of it, and I was actually wondering, like, do you find that do you struggle with like posting consistently? Like with me, I feel like I find it hard to post at least once a week or anything. Like it's hard to create work to be consistent and constantly posting,
Yeah. This is definitely something that in the last year, like this year, I have thought about more, and I've kind of come to the conclusion that there was a point that I think I was kind of making stuff, for the love of it, and making the stuff that I wanted to make, and I was putting my all into these projects. But there was an element of making content for content's sake, and whether that was just smaller pieces, and I do think doing a little sketch or little pieces here and there are important. But yeah, I was definitely, there was times where I was like, right, I've got this piece on the go. I'm going to make some smaller stuff to, keep the feed going, keep the algorithm happy, feed the Instagram monster,
Yeah.
And I got to the point where I was like, no, like I'm not gonna do that anymore. And now I just don't sweat it. Like I don't get bogged down with the shit. I haven't hit my sort of weekly, target sweet spot. And that shit, the best time for algorithm retention was 2 hours ago. I should have posted. Now they're going to penalize my future posts. Like I just don't try and think about it so much. And it's tough. Like that's, to a lot of like up and coming artists, like myself and others, like that's so daunting. That's so off putting when you've poured hours into something, and because you haven't played the game right, people aren't going to see it, and that's like it sucks. So now, yeah, like I said, I just kind of treat it more as a sort of showcase space. And more active through other means. So like places like Twitter is where I'm sort of more frequent, and I'm posting, just more day to day, and it's a lot more relaxed, and it's just a much better atmosphere for it. And then I've got a private sort of fan group on Facebook, which is obviously quite sort of popular in our scene, and that's kind of a place where it's private, so you can kind of post behind the scenes stuff a bit more, and that's something I've only really started. I only launched that I think a month ago, and I've got a few members who've joined, and it's great. And that's the kind of place now where I encourage people to say, if you want to come and check out my work and the process behind it, come and join this. And that's where I'm now more active in sharing my work and information about where you can find it and things like that in future. That's kind of the route I'm taking now, because I definitely think that trap of making content for content's sake to stick with the Instagram algorithm is dangerous,
Yeah, that's for sure. Would you consider, because you have that Facebook group, is a goal of yours to then like make a Patreon account where you do stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, potentially, like that's something that I've also thought about in the past, but I think again, I don't want to fall into the trap of like, these people are paying.
Right, and then you got to be consistent. Right, I got it.
Yeah, I don't want to ever be like, I've got to keep up with it, because I don't want to be the person who's like billing people to keep up with my updates, and then I'm not providing, the service that they're paying for. I'm not providing the content that they want to see. So I do think that's kind of a tricky balance. I've been a patron of Dave Repose's.
Same dude.
He's great, and that's so insightful for like process, and the guy's a fucking monster. Like it is crazy,
dude, man. Like he gives us the download links of high res his posters and everything. I'm like, oh my god.
That's how he's pretty comfortable at the top of that pile, because he can do something like that. But I remember like when I was in school, I used to see his stuff, like his Ninja Turtles. I don't know if you remember those.
Right. He this weekend he was like selling the prints finally, but I didn't get to grab them, but he was selling them for sure.
I remember like seeing those like when I was in school, and then I became a member of his Patreon, and it's like, for him it makes sense because he's just giving so much, and but I'd worry that I'm making stuff just to make it. And
right. I mean, even with him, he said he needed that remember that break that he needed because of like family issues and stuff, and he like gave a free month because he wasn't doing it, you know. So I mean,
crazy that.
In a sense, you could do that. I mean, if you can't, if you're not doing anything, just give a free month or something like that, you know?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, yeah, I never rule it out. I wouldn't say no to something like Patreon, but I definitely would need to feel like I'm in the position where I know I can provide.
Yeah, exactly.
I wouldn't want to feel like I'm ripping people off, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even considered that yet because I'm still trying to grow the accounts, you know? I'm still at like 1,500. I was below 1,000 just like last year, and it's just trying to build it up because, again, it's the whole algorithm thing, and then like trying to be consistent and trying to just put yourself out there. But a lot, like doing these gallery shows and everything has brought more attention my way. So
yeah, I think a big part of it is just kind of being more thoughtful to where you spend your energy, you know, like, you know, we talked a bit about like burnout earlier, and I think, you know, there is, you know, the actual creating is part of it, right? But that's only a part of it. You know, people don't necessarily see the fact that you've got to make this stuff, but, you know, for the most part, we are, as individuals, our own marketing team. We are our own, you know...
Dude, we're like our own big business. Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of work that goes into that, you know? So I think just sort of being more thoughtful of where you're spending that energy, because it's very easy to get burnt out in just the admin side of things. Like just recently I've been kind of, like I said, I've set up this group and I've had a bit of a change in direction and things like that, where I'm trying to spend my energy in more beneficial areas. And I think, just sort of picking your battles and being like, right, I'm not, you know, going out to be top of the pile on Instagram isn't maybe the healthiest use of your time if you have, you know, this end goal in mind. You know, do it, cater to the people who are interested, and people will come through that. You know, if recognition is what you're after, or, you know, if it's gallery work, it's go for the people that you feel that you could work well with. So yeah, I think chasing the Instagram dragon is a dangerous.
That's a great metaphor, by the way. I like that.
Yeah, I think it's it can really, you know,
hinders your work, man. Yeah, and then I feel like you're then just creating work that you think people are gonna like, and you're not creating work for yourself, you know. And it just messes the whole thing up.
It can really like throw you off after that. Like you put something out and it flops, and I mean, I've felt it. I'm sure loads of people have felt it. You put something out and it doesn't get the response that you hoped after you poured however much time into it, and it can really like knock your kind of flow. It can knock your confidence, and that can be damaging when, you know, really you just want to be getting better and better. And so, yeah, I do think there is a cautionary tale there. I think with Instagram, you got to be careful of it. Don't put too much stock in it, especially these days. I think the direction it's going, I don't know, you know, I'm not here to sort of predict the future of social media platforms, but I don't feel like that's necessarily the place. That's not the be all and end all of the creative fields now. I think there's other things that you can do. And, you know, I remember when I first started Instagram, it was very different scene.
So much easier. Everybody saw your stuff, and it was all chronological. I feel like the downfall was then when like the chronological order was taken out, and it was just like messed everything up.
That was the first sign of them trying to curate what you saw. That was them. That was the first sign of them deciding what was important for people to see, and that's it's a shame. Yeah.
All right, so we're coming to a close soon. So, what is success to you?
Maybe, I don't know. I feel like it's like a hard one to answer, isn't it?
It is, and it's always a question that stumps a lot of people that have been on here.
Yeah, I feel like, especially in this kind of field, like you're always moving the goalpost, right?
Yeah.
I said earlier, like I'd love to work with Mondo on Criterion or something like that. I feel like that would feel like success, but I mean, just having that satisfaction in your work, again, that's the thing that you're always moving the goalpost, so it's like a carrot and string situation, you know.
Yeah.
But just, you know, being able to do this as a job full time and just having that position where I could feel fortunate in that, you know, I'm being able to do what I love, and people like it enough for me to make a living off that is success. So yeah, I feel like that would be, and to have a cool studio space would be.
Oh yeah, that's the dream too, man. I mean, like like for me, it would be like having the same thing with a studio and the podcast studio all in one thing, and then just being able to live off my artwork. You know, like living comfortably, knowing that my art will just provide for everything I need. That's the dream, I feel like, for everyone. I mean, everybody, like you said, it's constantly moving, and you have different smaller goals. But for me, the biggest goal, the most important would be just living off of my art and living comfortably.
For sure.
So aside from artwork and then what your day job and everything, do you have any side gigs going on at the moment?
Not too much. I mean, they do take up a lot of your time, you know.
Yeah.
As you know. No real side jobs. I mean, for a while, I kind of always had like my backup idea was if I wasn't going to make it as an artist, I'd try and make it as a chef, which is a bit of a.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What made you get into that, or think of that?
Yeah, I don't know. I've just kind of always been into cooking and things like that, and I've worked in restaurants in varying roles from, like I said, you know, washing dishes to there was like a kind of small sort of beachfront cafe place that I worked at as a barista and then did a bit of cooking there. So I I'm into that. I try and learn a lot about that and study that as like, I don't know if it's a part of, I used to consider it as like a backup, and then now that I'm kind of doing art, which was always my thing that I always wanted to do, so thankfully I'm doing that. Now it's like cooking and studying of like, you know, chef practices is like now the hobby, you know, art is the job, so that's the hobby. So, but other than that, I don't think, you know, with the full-time job and then with this and, you know, just having a life, you know, living with my girlfriend and things like that.
Do you ever cook do you ever like make special dishes for your girlfriend or anything?
Oh yeah, all the time. I mean, I think that's where I got the most practice. Like when we got together.
Right. That's like the hobby. That's where you put that hobby into work, in a sense.
Yeah, because then I was like, okay, now I've got somebody to cook for. I've got somebody to impress. That's when, you know, cooking. If you nail a dish, like, you know, it's a big flex.
Exactly. That's a flex I cannot say because I don't know how to cook. So, dude, you got one up on a lot of guys right now. So.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. All right. So then, do you have any advice for any upcoming illustrator that wants to get into this poster making community or just illustration in general?
Yeah, I think like persevering is like the main thing. I think if you're really passionate about it, if you really love it, and it's really what you want to do, just like keep going. It's one of those things where it's so easy to give up on this because it's fucking hard work.
Yeah.
There's a lot goes into it. It can be a big mental strain. It can be really tough mentally, whether it's, you know, you're spending long hours on something or it's not getting the reception that you wanted or something's not working out right. You know, they can be, you know, tough things, you know, it can be hard work, but I think just like pushing through it is the main thing, and just make sure you keep going because nothing's going to happen if you give up. So that's the main thing. I think that's true for a lot of things really, is just like persevere. And then I guess just don't be afraid to ask questions and like reach out to people, like we were saying earlier, like speaking to people like Gabs and people in the industry is it's a very sort of collaborative space, and there's not too many secrets. Like people are happy to help you out, and I think there's not a lot of resources for this sort of thing in terms of like knowing where to go or how to do things or what the best practices are for things, or like how to deal with galleries when they reach out to you, or how to deal with books when they reach out to you. And it's like, or when you contact them, it's like there's not a lot of resources for that, which can be really difficult, and that was something that I found sort of difficult when I started out. It's like, how do you do this? So I think just don't be afraid to ask people and reach out to people if there's people you admire or there's people that are doing stuff that you like, or anything. I think just don't be afraid to like shoot somebody an email or something. I think that's don't suffer in silence if you're struggling on something. I think that's the main thing. And
that was like kind of the point of the whole me creating this podcast, because I got the idea also from like Drop Mag and how he's been doing it with a lot of movie poster artists and everything, because it's another great podcast where we learn more about the industry and everything. But I created this like solely for like people coming up, like just starting out, because just like you, I had no idea where I was going or what I wanted to do. So on top of like, movie poster illustrators, I also have, different kinds of artists for people to come into, and then they can pick and choose which episode to listen to and learn more about the industry that way. Because I feel like it's something, even in college, it's like they don't even teach you that side. They don't teach you the business side of it, of like what you got to do for illustration. They just, like what you got to do with these taxes because you're your own business and everything, stuff like that, And it's like,
it was zero business side. Yeah. When I did zero.
I had one semester with some random accountant guy that didn't even really teach us much. He was late to classes most of the time, and it was just, we were bullshitting most of it. We didn't really learn much. So, and that's the reason with this podcast, is just to have people on and teach people about the industry. So
stuff like this is great. I mean, like you mentioned the Dropcast. Like I watched their last episode was the one with Rory Kurtz. And I listened to that whilst I was working, and it was like just so insightful. Like hearing about other artists and the way that they do things, whether it's their process or how they got into things, and it's like, and he was talking about like how he didn't like start really giving it a real go with movie posters. I think he said it wasn't until he was like 30.
Insane, dude. You see, and like people expect to be like, oh, I got to be successful like now, like when we're 25, 20, 21 or something. It's just like these things come at any age,
Yeah, like I'm 27 now, and I'm like, sometimes I'm like, shit, am I like, do I need to get on with it? Do I need to start making it bigger at this age? Should I be, fully formed by this point? And then you hear people like fucking Rory Kurtz, like my like absolute idols, and he's like obviously he did other stuff, but he started this thing at 30, and it's like,
I mean, even with Drew Struzan, he didn't start getting big until, same thing, like later in his age, because he was doing just like album artwork for like dirt cheap for a company when he first started out. So
it's hard to remember sometimes that you don't have to rush. Like life's pretty short, but it's not it's not that short. You got time.
Yeah, dude, for sure.
Figure your shit out. So
So like you said, people just gotta persevere, have the dedication, and not like lose hope on what you want to do, because it's so easy. I mean, there's been moments with this podcast that I'm just like, damn, but no, you gotta do it. You gotta do these things because you enjoy it, and it's just for the good.
That's all right. You gotta love it, I think.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so now it's the fun part, and I feel like you'll enjoy it a lot. It's just any movie recommendations or recent ones you've seen.
Okay. So like I said earlier about how I've been trying to get to the cinema as much as I can now that they're kind of opening up again. And I've been going a couple of times, once or twice a week at least. There's a place in Leicester Square in central London called the Prince Charles Cinema. And it's like a kind of a revival house type cinema. It shows a lot of the new stuff, but it shows a lot of the kind of smaller releases, but they also have a great catalogue of like old stuff, and they show like older film prints and stuff like that. So I went to go see Goodfellas a couple weeks ago.
My girlfriend loves that movie.
Yeah, it's like one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I saw that in 35mm, and it was like pretty incredible. Like I've seen that I don't like 100 times, but seeing it in a packed cinema, you know, on a film print was like, it was great. I mean, it was
So with that, I've never seen a 35 millimeter film. So what's like the difference from that and like watching what we're watching now?
Yeah, I mean, I think a part of it is that kind of tangible aspect of it. It's not perfect. You know, you're seeing it's light literally passing through celluloid. You're seeing all the imperfections. You're seeing the judder. You're seeing scratches, and it's like sound like good things. And I know it's maybe pretentious, but there's something just nice about that. You're experiencing a sort of real thing. You know, it's not like a digital projection, which
right.
Don't get me wrong, I love that too.
Yeah, it's like with vinyl. Like you can hear the hissing and the crackling of the record.
Yeah, okay, it's that analog, like organic kind of thing. But I mean, the print that I saw of Goodfellas, I mean, they've obviously had that for a while. It's definitely been around a few times. It had a couple of bits where it, you know, stuttered, where I guess like parts of the film were damaged and had been cut out. So there was a couple of little jumps or some scratching and stuff. It wasn't too bad, but you know, I've seen it 100 times, so it wasn't you know, off-putting. But I also went to see Texas Chainsaw Massacre last week with my girlfriend. I'd never seen it before. Neither of us had ever seen it before, and that was also in 35
Oh, that's awesome.
Kind of grungy, kind of beat up aesthetic was like perfect for it. It felt like the best way to see that for the first time, which is rare. Obviously, it's a film from the 70s, so you don't get to experience it like that in a cinema, and it's like intended environment. But that was really cool because I feel like, again, it was a print that had been around. I don't know how long they've had that particular print of that film, but there was definitely parts where they'd like spliced in, you know, where stuff, you know, if a film gets damaged, you know, maybe you need to cut a section out and you need to replace it or whatever. There was definitely parts that were newer. So there was a section where it was like super grainy and like scratched and fucked up. And then you kind of notice all of a sudden it was like the tint changed, and it was definitely like for about 30 seconds, it was definitely like being patched back in. The title card at the beginning was in Spanish, and then they had the English one. It was sick. It was like, maybe it's a bit pretentious. Like, you
know. No, I gotta check out and see if they do that around me, because I would love to check one out.
Yeah, it was cool, but it's a great cinema. I've been to see loads of stuff there lately. I saw Memories of Murder, the Bong Joon-ho film. Saw that for the first time there. That's a great movie. If you've ever seen that, it's Bong Joon-ho. He did Parasite.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and a bunch of other stuff, but it's like a kind of countryside detective sort of murder thriller with kind of.
Yeah, I've seen this the Korean movie. I Know the Devil, or I See the Devil.
Okay, not sure.
It's basically, the story is like the guy murders this guy's fiance, and he's a cop, so now he's going after the killer, and the main guy on that was the guy from Old Boy. I gotta remember.
I forget his name, but I know that. Yeah.
You know that movie?
Yeah, it's a great film,
dude. I recently saw that for the first time, and it was like crazy. You could not tell what was gonna happen next. It was. I love those kind of movies, man.
Yeah, that's a real good movie. I haven't seen all of the American remake of it, but I've seen sort of snippets of it. But it didn't grab me as much as the original. But it's a bleak movie. If you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend. It's kind of it's like imagine Seven in the sort of Korean countryside with like the most like inept, incapable detectives who are like all kind of assholes, but they definitely has this kind of dark humor tinge to it. Like if you've seen Parasite, you know.
Yeah, it's like very similar vibe in that sense.
Yeah. It's really good. So you saw that. I saw Another Round, the Mads Mikkelsen film, not too long ago. That's really great if you haven't seen that.
It's on Hulu. I haven't gotten to it though.
It's good. It's good. I really recommend. What else? I'm going to go see Pig tomorrow.
I have to see that, dude. It's been on my list. Oh man.
Yeah, I've tried to like avoid everything about it because like the first I heard of it was all this like this headline buzz, like Nicolas Cage's best ever movie, and I know he's like a divisive figure, but I think he's good at what he does. Like you got to give him credit for that.
That dude is making like 10 movies a year. I don't know how he's doing, man.
He's having like he's having like this whole new like section of his career. I feel like he's coming out with he's kind of found his niche. Like,
exactly.
He's like been in the industry forever. Like what am I talking about?
I mean, it's because he's doing all these campy movies. I mean, I recently watched I think it was Wonderland.
Is it Willy's Wonderland?
Willy's Wonderland, on Hulu, and he doesn't talk the whole movie, and it's just fantastic. It's just pure gore, and it's like it's those kind of movies that he's been constantly doing, and it's
just fun. Campy, pulpy kind of. He's playing to his strength. He knows what he's good at, and he's put out some winners. So I'm pretty excited to see that. But man, I could recommend movies all day. Like I say, I try and go at least once a week. I'm watching them all the time. So, but yeah.
I got to be on that level, dude. I have to, because I have the Regals around me, and so I have the Regal monthly pass where I could go as much as I want for like one flat fee. So as long as I go once a month, it pays for itself. Mm-hmm. So I gotta get on that level, man, of just going at least once a week. And just
that's it. Like I guess it's easier with places like the Prince Charles, that cinema, because it's like a curated program. They are not just showing the new releases; they're showing like the classics. I go on there like every couple of weeks and just like flick through the program. When was the last time you ever did that at a regular cinema?
Yeah, like that's the thing with here. It's just new releases. That's all we get.
Exactly. So I go on there and I flick through what's coming out, and if there's films I haven't seen, I try and catch them there first. Like I said, Memories of Murder. I've been wanting to see that for forever, and I just hadn't got around to it. And then I saw it was playing there, and I thought, that's the best first time to see it. So, man, I just try and just go as much as I can, just see what's good, what's new, what's weird, what I haven't seen before. Pig, I'm like, let's fucking, do it. And
I think that's the next film I'm going to watch, Pig, for sure.
I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah.
Sounds like an interesting concept, so we'll see.
All right, so what's the next poster you have in the pipeline that you're going to release?
I've got like 5 like on the go at the moment, all in kind of varying stages. I've talked about a couple of them in that group that I mentioned. I've got The Last of Us is probably the furthest along, and then I've got one for The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Ooh, that's nice.
The Aliens and Halloween ones, obviously they're done. They're sort of due to be released in those books that we mentioned. I have one for Death Proof, the Tarantino movie. Not his most popular movie.
I still love it. It's one of my favorites from his lineup.
Yeah, like I love all of his movies. It's one of those ones that hasn't been. It's like we said earlier. You don't want to do something that's been picked to shreds, and I don't feel like that's been done much. So I had some ideas for that, and that's coming along. So working on that, and just some other stuff. So
perfect, man. So where can we find you? So I could link it all right on the video. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, so I mean, on all my socials, it's just at Sam Green Artist, all one word. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. That Facebook group is probably the best place if you want to keep up to date with stuff. You can find that over there. Just my website, Sam Green Artist. All the usual places. Just search Sam Green Artist, and you'll find me somewhere.
It's the best when you can have your full name and
yeah,
art at the end, because it'll make everything so much easier.
exactly. Yeah, makes it pretty easy to find.
All right, man. Thank you so much for being on. This was great. I love talking about movies and your whole process, dude. And I'm glad we got into the same gallery together. It was great.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's good.
Thanks
for having me.
Yo, thank you so much, man. All right, guys. Have a great one. Peace.
Catch you later.